Hello, my name is Thomas Max, and I would like to welcome you to today's special webinar on the topic Going Postal, Discover Web API Testing in QF-Test. QF-Test 10 fundamentally revamps testing of web interfaces. There's a special focus on web APIs such as REST, SOAP, and other web services. The testing of these APIs is not 100% the same as the UI tests many of you may already familiar with. Also, there are some visual nodes in QF-Test. You may also need various script nodes to simulate realistic processes. This means that things may get a little more technical today in some places, but don't worry, you don't have to be a programmer now. You can also encapsulate the more complex implementations and procedures as usual and simply use them. In today's special webinar, my colleague Pavel Vasilinov will introduce you to the new features of the upcoming QF-Test version 10. We are currently working out on the final features and improvements of QF-Test 10 and hope to be able to officially release this version by this year. But enough for my introductory remarks. I now hand over to Plamen and hope you enjoy today's webinar.
Thank you, Thomas. It's a great promise that I will show you the new features of QF-Test 10.0. I will probably focus on web API testing. And let's start. I have a few slides here prepared so that I can show what is the difference between the testing of graphical user interface and what is the difference between testing a conversation between a machine and a machine. And when this conversation happens, it's via API, application programming interface. And when this is done through the network, especially via the HTTP protocol, it's called Web API. I mentioned here also WebSockets because WebSockets doesn't run normally over HTTP. So this is also one thing to remember. It's not only HTTP, but we'll speak only about HTTP now. And the best place to start with HTTP in 2025 is a REST example. I wanted to use SOAP, but I decided that I will leave it for later. And in this REST example, there is the application which is on the right side and is on the left side and is communicating with the server on the right side. And this usually goes in the way that the client connects to the server via an HTTP request. In this case, the request is a GET. The HTTP protocol supports few methods. They are well defined and they reassemble the CRUD operations like create, read, edit, and delete, but they are called get, put, post, delete, and so on in HTTP. And very often the HTTP request receives a response from the backend. In this case, we get an ID and a name, and we want to change the name. And we put a new name to this user. And that's it. This is how basically REST endpoint communication works. It's pretty much the same if we think about HTTP with other web services. And this is what I will show you now in the demo. So for this, don't look here. For this demonstration, I have prepared an empty test suite, and I have one pet store application. Basically, the pet store application is the hello world for web APIs. It's far from perfect. Don't use it ever to build your own pet store online application, but it looks plausible. It has a pet endpoint, store endpoint, user endpoint, and different operations that we can do on those endpoints. Here on the left side are the HTTP methods. And basically, this web representation of the pet store API comes from the documentation, from the Open API documentation, which looks like this. And we will not use it now because it's JSON. One can read it, but still not very human friendly. We'll use this one. And what we will do we will create a new pet. We will add a new pet to our store. And in this case, I add a new web request node. The new web API testing feature has its own category in the nodes, and you see here the different nodes that we have developed for this feature. We start, of course, with the web request node, and I can give a name. And because we're doing a demo, I will do it very basic. So we have our URL, and I see that the endpoint is pet, so I will put pet here. The method is post. QFtest can send a lot of methods, HTTP methods, and you can also give a parameter here, a variable. For this first demo test suite, I will use values directly in the fields. Then, according to the documentation, we need to have a body. It's in the form of JSON, and the body, I can put it here in the web request node. Because it's JSON, I can select now that this is a JSON. I think in the future, this may probably automatically switch to JSON so that I can see very well what are the objects and their values. It's very easy to see if there is an error, for example. And I know for this documentation, I should pass a content type for my request. This is normal for HTTP, and I can do this in this header section. So I can place here content type and type application JSON. And I can tell the web server what type of data I expect to get back. In this case, I expect application JSON because I like JSON. And I will change the name to be wolf because they are also dogs. And I executed this one. With QFtest, you don't need to, with Web API, unlike UI tests, you can select a single post web request and execute it. And it will be executed with all required steps. And I will show you how it looks like because it's very good. And what I mean with this, we have added new rule lock nodes. Once we have here the request, and underneath we have the response. The request has the headers that we send. We have the body, and the response contains the headers that we receive from the backend and the body of the response. And also I can copy everything that I need by using this copy button. This is also new in QFtest 10, and it looks like this. This is interesting, but probably I want to update my my pet, so I will update the one that we created now. So the update goes through the post request. No, not the post, to the put, through the put. And I will copy the URL from the previous note. And I will use JSON, this one, because it actually changes the name of my wolf to doggy. And I will also put those two headers. And again, it's running okay with 200. It looks good, and I want to make sure that my pet is in the inventory. So I will try to find it by ID. And for this, I will use a GET request, which is documented over here. Let me place the headers. I don't need content type because the body will be empty, which is typical for GET request. I will get the pet, but I have to add here an ID. I think it was 10. Let's see if it was 10. Yes, and I'm getting the new name. But I want to check it automatically if this is renamed from Wolf to Doggy. That's why I can add one of the two handlers. This one, post request handler. So after the request, I can have a handler which handles the response, and I can add a server script. And in this server script, I can use our new QW module. This one stays for QFTest Web API. And it's similar to our RC or IW. That's why it's only two letters. And we have response, and we have a lot of methods which are available to us that we can call to get different details of the response. In this case, I'm interested in the body. And let me check how it looked like, the response. The name is here, so name. I will print it once in the terminal to see. Of course, response, JSON. It's doggy. So what I will do, I will use our assert library to check if the actual name which I'm getting corresponds to my doggy, and I will write name. And I can run it again. This is important to note that the different checks can be done in a server script inside this post request handler. And what are those? What is the QW module with response and of course request? We can find out in the documentation. And in this time, I will jump into documentation right away. I will open what's this. And I will show you that the new web request node is documented here. There are some other nodes which I will demonstrate you later. And we can see the different fields of this node, what are they are used for. And also I will jump to the main chapter of the manual. I included the manual in this demonstration because when you test Web API with QFTest, you need to know what are the capabilities, what is possible, and the manual is the place to start. We tried to document everything which we have implemented so far, and you can find it here. And here there is also one note which I have to make. That our implementation is based on the java.net HTTP package from the java.net HTTP module. Why this is important? Because almost all of the methods that we offer, for example, for a response, they are the same as from the JDK. We also have, of course, additional ones, but if you want to know what is possible with QFTest, you can have a look at this documentation and get a feeling about it. By the way, same is for request. we have some methods that enable you to configure the request or get something which is already configured in the web request node itself. And when I say configured, I think it's time to show how this get find my pet looks like, especially with the post request handler. The post request handler is executed only as part of a web request. So if I try to execute it somewhere else, or let's say to have an effect of it, it doesn't make sense. So when the web request starts, it executes all post requests that are underneath it, or I can also put it here, and this is something new. QFTest can find out that this web request has a parent post request handler and also run it. The thing is, in this case, this post request handler will be run by every single web request here because it's a parent one. I can also have another one here inside. And I will have two of them executed, one after the other. So first my assert is executed, and then second comes the print line. This is the logic that we follow from outermost to the innermost, and this is also very well documented in the beginning of the chapter. There is a screenshot from the test suite itself here, and a screenshot with the flow of the requests. This allows us to have a structure similar to the dependencies that you probably already know from QFTest. But this also allows us to run single web requests without running the whole test case. A dependency requires you to run the whole test case. You cannot run nodes that are lying inside the test case. Okay, and since we have those three here, I will open a test suite which I created earlier, which has something more meaningful as a test case. In this case, we added a pet, we search for it, we update it, we find all pets with the status that we added, then we update the pet's status, and so on and so forth. We basically play around with the backend, and we imagine we have a requirement that we need to cover with the tests. And I will run actually the whole test suite. The second part, store orders, uses data drivers. And I have three different pets that I want to add and order from the pet store. And this test case store orders is a bit different. It uses a procedure where I call the backend multiple times to find the next free order ID and so on. It looks like almost like a real case scenario. And let me run those because I want to show you how the run log looks like in the HTML report which QFTest generates. Everything that I'm showing you now, running QFTest, opening the run log, and also generating this HTML report that I will generate now, can be done automatically via the command line in batch modus in QFTest. So you don't need to install any additional applications to generate reports, to start QFTest, to yeah, even for rerun you don't need to do this. And the HTML report, it looks like this because of the demand of our users. We have added a lot of details in this HTML report. So pretty much the whole request is here, and also the whole response. You can also copy those from the HTML report. It is very helpful if you have an external JSON format or some validator that you want to use, or some editor. Additionally, all checks are also listed here, so you can see if your checks passed, if they don't pass, what could be the problem, and so on and so forth. It's like what you know about QFTest, but with a probably better design, because QFTest 10 and also the new nodes for WebAPI, they can be, by the way, huge. So we have a customer who is using the feature since 1 year already, and they have huge JSON data which is coming back from the server, and they wanted to have the copy button. And we find it so good that we placed it in some more places. It saves you a few mouse clicks. So I will switch back to the test suite itself, because I want to show you some usage of the pre-request handler. In this case, I have added a request settings node. This request settings node allows you to configure the whole HTTP client, the whole web request client. In this case, we have currently only the redirection policy and connection timeout options, but in the future, we will have also the proxy settings. I know, because this question will come up. I will open the manual one more time, and I will show you the proxy settings, web API. The new manual is looks very very beautiful, and the search is very fast. I'm using this search all the time, and also very interesting is that we have the content here on the left side, but we have the most prominent topics here on the right side. And this is very helpful when we switch to the API documentation. I will show you this in a short. So the settings, we have an option for the cookies, and we have proxy. As I said, in the future, proxy will be also set through the node. This will not go away. We provide the means to set everything that you can do in the UI, also in the scripting part. Okay, I will go to the post request handler now, and here I have a note that this QFTest web API module is documented. Why this is important? Because there are a lot of methods, a lot of possibilities. On the right side, as I told you, you can see all methods from this module. At the bottom are the web response methods, and from the top are the web request methods, the qw.request, and they are a lot. I think we have more methods probably here in the source editor than in the documentation here, but we will catch up on this matter. Okay, and then I told you about this natural language assertion library. We have released it a few versions ago, but again, with Web API, it's very convenient and easy to use, and it allows, if a check fails, to continue the test execution and just to lock the failure. When I say failure, I can also tell something about the status code of the node. The status code, most of the time, web applications, the browsers send an error, or they show an error, or they write an error in the DevTools if there is something which is not 200 status code. But when we test web APIs, QFTest should be able to expect also errors, because this might be the correct status code for this test case. So we have the error levels here in this dropdown. By the way, the what's this menu is also available across all fields in the nodes. So use it all the time. If you don't know what something is, then use it. For example, I'm not sure how to add additional headers here. So I can go ahead and see that the additional headers may have this syntax and they will be used. This is very helpful if you want to pass additional headers via variable. For example, my common headers. I will not put it here because it will fail the execution. Since QFTest has visual nodes to represent the test steps, I actually prefer to work with those nodes where I can evaluate a condition, an if node. And this if node shows me directly in the test what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to check if this name in this JSON is actually the value of the variable pet new name. Pet new name is this one here. I have all variables in the root of the test suite. I can have the variables also as a JSON file somewhere lying, or as a response from a web service or a database. It doesn't matter. You can pass this to QFTest. For my demo, I decided to have it like this because we can see it immediately. And if this is the case, we just save a variable. I can save it through this syntax. I use Groovy. We strongly suggest to use Groovy for testing web APIs because Groovy has a very neat syntax when working with structured data, and we often work with structured data from the responses. And then what I did previously with JSON.name, this is possible with Groovy. With Jython, this is not the case. So Groovy, and I write a message that the check is okay. If this is not the case, the check is not okay. Then in the pre-request handler, I decided to delete all cookies here. And I also print in the terminal all names of all pets with available status. Why? Because as I named this script, I was creating test cases, but I didn't know how far I am with the pets, and I wanted to actually see them. You can see some of this print here. That's why I decided to print them out, and I decided to do this in a loop. QFTest supports loops, so I gave the size of the JSON, and I just printed it here. By the way, I could do it with message. And this is again, I prefer to use the QFTest visual nodes to develop my test logic. But as I said, you can always do anything with programming in a script. Same here. And then I'm just checking some random stuff based on the pet that I added and status and so on. Now let's switch to the store orders test case. Test set. The test set has one test case. I can imagine one can have much more test cases, but I have only one. I think it's a good end-to-end test case, especially for 3 different pets. And I'm checking first all pending orders. And I'm using here a special syntax to set if to 0 if there are no pending orders, or to get the pending orders. I use this for a later check because at the end I want to check when I place my order if the order count increased. I'm adding a new pet for the inventory, and then I call a procedure. The API is designed in a way that it requires me to provide an ID for an order. We can see this here. I have to give this ID. I don't get it from the backend. Like there is nothing like give me the next free ID. So I decided to do an exhaustive search in which I call the backend with increasingly higher number of ID, and here I have an example. I wait for an expected status code 404, because when I get 404, this means that this ID was not found, so I can use it. And it looks like this. Here I get check failed, status code is 200. I was expecting 404, but I don't get any error in the run log because I set in this dropdown no error. So I basically use this this attribute to guide the flow of the logic of the test. And of course, I'm getting 404 at the end, and I'm setting this variable through this thing in German. Yeah, I'm just setting this directly like this. I need it because based on the order, I will place the next one, and then and I'm checking here if my pending orders, which I saved in the beginning, has increased. If it has increased, I'm saying, okay, just pass. That's why I have my else block containing this error. And again, I'm deleting what I have created just to keep my container where the backend is running clean. Now, one might ask, this is the test suite that I created for the demo. However, we ship QFTest with sample test suites. This is exactly the case also with Web API testing. And with Web API testing, we have this test suite. And this test suite contains a test set against an echo service. It's similar to this one, where this echo service basically returns back in JSON format or XML what you sent. Then we have a test set for authentication. I will show you this after I run the whole test set. Then we have an example for SOAP, and we have an example how to set a proxy. I decided to disable those server scripts because I run the demo once and I forget that the proxy is set, and yeah, and then I don't know what happened. So if you want to run this test, just uncomment the scripts and run those. As I said, proxy is set via an option through a script, and you can unset it, of course, via unset option. There is also the example for download file. And now I can say a few words before I will run this, and while it is running, I will say a few words about the new web request node in comparison to the old web HTTP server request node. The old HTTP server request node is based on the old HTTP client from Java, and it is limited in It means that it supports only HTTP1. All handling of errors, exceptions, responses, different body types, upload, download, authentication schemes, authorization schemes are not supported in the old implementation. So you have to develop everything yourself. And because of that, we decided to use the new JDK implementation for this feature, but we kept the old one because they are customers that are using those. We plan to prepare a migration in which you can transform the old nodes to the new ones, but this is not there yet. So you should decide to use the new feature. Because it will be further developed, the HTTP server request node, not more. Now, I have run the whole test suite, and I will open it. And you can see here that in this first request, I have 2 post requests. Obviously, this one is the higher one, and it basically removes dynamic data from response from the server, because the server is hosted and based on the traversal path to the server. We get different headers, we get different information on the way back. So I decided to remove this and save the response JSON inside Groovy data variable called filtered JSON. And then this filtered JSON, I can use it in my post request, especially in the check. Here, I check against this filtered JSON for the expected body. In this case, the expected body is also set in a variable. So this is my expected. I know what I want to get. It looks a bit weird because this is almost like JSON encapsulated in a JSON. But you can see the example test suite contains a lot of interesting examples. It has the different post requests on different levels. It uses variables, and also it has the authentication. This is very interesting because QFTest has a new now we have a new node which is called request authentication data. This node supports currently 3 authentication schemes. In the future, we can support more. When we talk about out authentication, for example, 1 or 2, it's something different, but the different authentication schemes are in the pipeline. But this is what currently we have implemented, and you can use this. You can also encrypt the values that are here so that they don't appear in the rules and test suites. Although we always say whenever you use QFTest, you should be against a test environment, but in any case, you can do this. And in this test set authentication, you can see a lot of examples how you can use authentication as basic authentication, or a bearer, or API key. You can actually also write authorization as header name, and then you can write whatever your server or your web application expects. Sometimes they expect something different. They don't expect this, but they expect something like this, a different name. So you can write this. And also we have here different examples for the authentication. Okay. I think proxy SOAP. Let me check if SOAP went through. very often this SOAP service that I added to the demo is not available. So, or I think they probably see that that we send the request, and that's why it doesn't work. It's basically a SOAP request which acts like a calculator. 1 + 2. I think we should host it ourselves. But anyway, if it ran, then we should be able to see the post request, and this is very important. If any of the conditions here fails, like a status code, the post request will not be executed, which is the right thing to do, because you will get a lot of null pointer exceptions if you try to do something like this. Okay, that's it.
Yeah, done. Thanks for your attendance and also for all the questions. And if you have any feature addition in mind afterwards, just drop us a short email, and then we will happy to analyze this and put it into our feature roadmap. Okay, then have a nice day, and
Bye.
see you in the next webinar. Bye.